So I look at how wide open I consider the NBA right now and its title chances, and which player, which star, which all-star, which superstar would benefit most for their legacy purposes, for their legacy conversation by winning a title.
This was one of my three also. I didn't rank them, but this was one of my three.
So it's funny. I have 6 guys that I think realistically, and realistically is I stretch that word because one of them is Chris Paul, and I'm not sure it's realistic to think he'll be the engine that drives them to a title. He
won't be the engine, but he can still win it.
That's why I don't know how much his legacy would change if the Suns won the title and he's just not, it's really Devin Booker's title, I wonder how much it would do for Chris Paul's legacy, almost in the sense that Wade wins that title in 2006 and that gives Shaq another title. Don't get me wrong, but that was Dwayne Wade's coming out party, and it gave Gary Payton the title, but it doesn't change the way that a lot of Gary Payton's career is viewed.
Yeah, of course not.
So I understand Chris Paul winning a title would validate a lot of his resume, but I also recognize he wouldn't be the engine that drove them to a title. There's 5 other guys, though, that I'm curious what the historical ramifications would be if we're sitting here at the end and it's oh, wow, so-and-so just won the title. Now we view their legacy like this.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Of your 5, have any of them won a title already?
Yes, 1. Yes, 2 of them have, and it's why I'm curious. That one, Giannis is my number 5, because he's already won a title. But if he wins another, we then put him in the 2-time Finals winner club, also the 2-time Finals MVP most likely club.
Well, and not only that, so the list of players who have won 2 MVPs and 2 NBA titles. Do you want to try to name all of them?
How many are there?
Hold on.
2 MVPs and 2 NBA Finals MVPs?
No. 2 league MVPs.
Right.
And 2 NBA titles.
Oh, just titles. So it doesn't have to even be MVP.
Yeah. Well, every one of these players has multiple NBA Finals MVPs, with the exception of one where his lack of NBA Finals MVPs was a story until very recently.
So let's go backwards. So Steph Curry.
There's 8. Yep.
Steph Curry, LeBron James, Tim Duncan.
Yep.
Michael Jordan.
Yep.
Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem won one.
1 MVP. 2 titles, 1 MVP.
Larry Bird.
Yep.
Magic Johnson.
Yep.
Kareem.
Yep. And then the most obvious one,
Bill Russell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Those are the 8.
That was easy.
So if you're ranking the top 10 players of all time, the only one who is, I think, not definitively in the top 10 is Steph Curry. And I think at this point, a lot of people do kind of have him in their top 10. So the reason I bring this up when you bring up Giannis as being number 5 on your list is if Giannis joins the 2 MVP, 2 championship club, is he a top 10 player of all time? I mean, there's going to end up as a top 10 player of all time. I think that is certainly on the table for him. So from that perspective, if we're talking about who would it impact their legacy the most? I mean, I guess there's an argument that Giannis maybe shouldn't be number 5 on your list, that Giannis should maybe be a bit higher.
But here's the thing, we know what that would do though. We have the ramifications laid out, and I think this was true last year, which is why I think it's not necessarily that my list isn't in order of matters. It's more of the unknown of what the conversation would be should this person win a title. I know what we'd say about Giannis. You just laid it out. He joins that exclusive 9-timers club, and then we start having top 12, top 11 conversations about him.
Sorry. You forgot one player. It's actually 9. And Giannis would complete the top 10. There's one other player. I entered wrong. This is the only player on that list who didn't win 3 championships. This player only won 2 championships, but they were for 2 of the greatest teams of all time. Played a long time ago. Scored a lot of points.
Who am I missing?
Center. Big Dipper.
One, two. Wait, what?
Big Dipper.
Why am I blanking on whose nickname that is?
It's Will Chamberlain.
Oh, Wilt only won one title.
No, he won 2 titles.
I thought he won in 73.
He won a title with the Lakers and he won a title with the Sixers. Or with not the Sixers, with the Warriors when they were at the Philadelphia Warriors, one of the greatest teams of all time.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow, I learn something new every day. I knew he won the 72 title, one of the greatest teams ever.
Yeah, 71, 72. And then but also that Philadelphia team he was on is considered one of the great teams of all time.
For the era. Yes.
I mean, how many games did they win?
How many teams were there in the league? Disrespectful. I know. Apologies, Ray. My bad. Here's the thing. There's 4 other guys that I think almost need a title because Giannis, I think we already have, we did this with your pyramid last summer. Like we have him in the top 25 already, or top 30 at least already, because of the 2 titles, the defensive player, 1 title, defensive player of the year, 2 MVP club is very exclusive. There is 4 other guys where I'm very curious what we do to the narrative around their careers should they win a title this year. The first and foremost one is Luka. And I wonder if I start or everybody starts coming to your level of hype around him. Especially if they win the title as is with the roster they have. Where like, oh, you took Porzingis away and they're still great. You took Jalen Brunson away, you're still great. And this one guy in an era where it's like, you got to have 2-3 guys to win a title. And if we kind of look at this as a coronation for him, the way LeBron losing to the Spurs in 2007 was a coronation. So Luka winning a title this year would, I think, launch him into a level that the league has rarely seen, especially now that there's no Pippen, there's no Robin on that team right now. Shout out to Christian Wood. You're just not that guy on that level. So Luka winning a title would be one. And I think 1B, like if you're 1A, 1B is Jokic. Because if Jokic actually does validate some of his regular season accolades and the conversation around him with some playoff success, a playoff moment, then yeah, okay, you're right back to it. You're 2-time MVP, potentially 3-time MVP and a title. Then where do we put him all time?
So first of all, correction, it was the Philadelphia 76ers, not the Philadelphia Warriors.
It was the Warriors, yeah.
No, it was the 76ers. That he won the title. Yeah, he started his career with I get confused because he started with the Philadelphia Warriors, then the Warriors moved to San Francisco, but then he went back to Philadelphia, but this time with the Sixers. That's who he won the championship with. That's the 68 win team in 1968. Okay, enough about Will. Jokic is number 1 on my list. Okay. And again, if Indiana is the team that I want to see end up with Wembanyama for basketball purposes, Jokic is the guy that I want to see win the 2023 NBA title, because I think again, not apples to apples. I'm not even sure it's apples to oranges, but I think it might be apples to oranges. Steve Nash is a guy who won 2 MVPs. Every other player who won multiple MVPs in history is viewed as, at worst, who's the next worst guy to win 2 MVPs? Would you have to say?
Jeez, much. Sure.
Take Jokic out of the conversation, and I guess take Giannis out because he's still in the midst of his prime. I would say if you're talking about like historically, how they're historically viewed, other than Nash, the next worst, and again, I'm using the term worst with like giant air quotes here, right? The next worst guy, at least how he's considered in basketball history, is probably Karl Malone. Carmelo,
yes, that's the correct answer. Yeah,
Carmelo or Bob Pettit. Now, Bob Pettit played a long time ago when, as you like to point out, there weren't a whole lot of teams in the league. Bob Pettit was the best player in the championship team. Bob Pettit was one of the 2 or 3 best players in the league for the first 25 years it existed. Bob Pettit was amazing. Carmelo, I think now, if you look at Carmelo and you're like, where does Carmelo rank all time? It's probably
top 20, 21, 22. Barely around there.
I think if you actually went down and because now you're talking again, we used to make these lists, and now because we've been watching sports for a long time, and now like guess who some of the guys who go above Malone? Like Giannis goes above Malone.
Yeah.
Steph Curry goes above Malone.
All the, like,
Kevin Durant goes above Malone. You know,
at his position alone, like Tim Duncan is ahead of him power forward. I have Barkley ahead of him power forward. Dirk, I have him over in that position. You know,
but no one questions Malone's MVPs and what they mean. And like he is a at worst top 30 guy of all time. He's third leading scorer of all time now, I guess. Right?
People don't question his second MVP.
You know what? He scored so many points and he was around for so long. And there was no questioning what Carmelo was. Carmelo was a guy who was, for 15 years, the most dependable 25 and 12 that you could have. Yeah. You know? Okay. Here's my point of this long diatribe.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Nash is 2-time MVP. He is viewed, I think, in history now as, I think there are some people who probably don't have him in their top 50 of all time. You know, you could quibble about that, but he is viewed, and those MVPs, I think, by some are viewed not quite as a novelty, or as like but it was like he broke basketball in a way that like Steph Curry came and did 2 or 3-fold a few years later. But he did it, you know, it was like lightning in a bottle. And I think a lot of people look at those MVPs, it was like, oh, perfect timing, perfect situation, perfect coach, perfect team, the whole thing. Everything was perfectly situated for a guy who was put it politely, a minus defender, and who had whatever his usage rate was for those years. It was not very high because he only averaged however many points, 16, 17, 18 points, to win not only an MVP, but back-to-back MVPs.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to bring it all the way back around to Jokic, if Jokic only wins his 2 MVPs and never makes it to an NBA Finals, let alone win a championship, I wonder if he will be regarded historically in something of the same way that Nash was. And to me, and this is going to sound like I'm bashing Steve Nash, and I don't want it to sound like I'm bashing Steve Nash because I'm not. Steve Nash is a great player. I think he's inside of my top 50 personally. Jokic is a different animal. I think Jokic deserves to be considered one of the greatest players of all time. I think he is one of the greatest players of all time. I don't think what he's doing is any sort of novelty. He is incredibly efficient. He runs his team's offense. The only knock on Jokic is that, well, that's all well and good. You're a center who doesn't protect the rim, and you'll never be able to win a championship if you have a center that doesn't protect the rim, which is why, to me, if they could figure out a way to win a title, it would end all those discussions, because it's like they did it.
Yeah.
They did it with this guy, and at a position where traditionally, if you do not have this thing at this position, you are not going to win bupkis. And so if they do it, that's why, to me, it would mean so much. And he's number 1 on this list for me.